Hello and welcome back to the Wasteland, everybody. Welcome back to New Vegas, where today we're going to be taking on one of the plasma weapons. Today we're going to be taking on the Plasma Defender, which is probably one of my favorite handguns in the game. This one is a really cool gun that you can get actually pretty early on. Usually the first way that you're going to find this is either through vendors selling the Gunner's Arsenal version of it, or you can actually find it on Dead Blight members at not necessarily completely low levels, although I think I have seen this on a couple Blight members at fairly low levels, like around 6 to 8 or so, and it can be a very, very fun weapon and a very strong weapon too. So the Plasma Defender has two variants of it. It has the regular Plasma Defender that's in the base game, and then there's the Gunner's Arsenal version of it. The Gunner's Arsenal version you are going to have to buy from a merchant. However, it is one of the most common weapons that you can actually buy from merchants, so you can even buy this, I think, from Chet. I think Chet can sell this. If he can't, you can get it very early on from other vendors that just sell anything, and it's probably going to be fairly common for you to get one of these, which is pretty cool. This one requires 50 energy weapons in order to use and 2 strength, so very low requirements for an energy weapon build. Should be really easy for any character to be able to use this pretty effectively. This one does 38 damage per shot, which is pretty good. That's actually really nice for the start. That's competing with a lot of the other very hard-hitting weapons in the early game. This one does 95 damage per second. You can shoot these fairly fast. This does 38 crit damage, which is perfectly fine. That's just the same as its regular damage, so that's good. 1 times crit modifier, so that's kind of average. Only costs 20 action points to be using too, which makes it a very good VATS weapon, especially if you're going with an energy weapon VATS build into the early game. This one and the laser pistol are fantastic for that. Even the plasma pistol is fairly decent for it. This one does have fairly low spread for a handgun too, at 0.3. It's not like to most rifle standards, but it is still quite accurate for a handgun. This one holds 32 rounds in it by default. However, the 32 rounds are cut in half because this consumes 2 ammo every time that you shoot it. So you actually only get 16 shots, but still a 16-shot semi-automatic handgun is pretty good, and you may not need more shots than that. This only weighs 2 weight, so it can be affected by the pack rat perk. It can get cut in half to just 1 weight, which is pretty cool. And this one has 100 item HP. Unfortunately, like a lot of energy weapons, this one's kind of weakness, or I guess its weakest stat, is probably its health, where it can break kind of quick. But since these are so common to find from vendors, at least if you have Gunner's Arsenal, it might not matter because you can fix them up fairly easily. For the general pros of the Plasma Defender, it actually has a lot going for it. It is a sneak-in weapon, which is really cool. It has good DPS, it has a really good ammo using the energy cells, which have quite a few different options there. And it's really good in a VATS build because its action points are pretty low. For the cons, its only real con is its low HP. Another con that you could potentially say about it is that it's still a plasma weapon, so the projectile has to travel. But with the distance that you're generally going to be using a pistol at, that might not be such a big deal. Enemies aren't just going to be able to jump out of the way of this unless you're really going for some long-range shots with it or something. So the Plasma Defender is pretty decent. For some perks that can help out with this, since it is a plasma weapon, Plasma Spaz does actually help out with this one, and it helps out quite a bit because that makes so you have better action point costs in VATS. VATS perks in general are really good, so if you have Action Boy, Action Girl, or really any of the other ones like Mathrath and stuff, that can really help with this. And Meltdown can be pretty good with this too, since that just gives you more crowd control, so when you shoot a smaller enemy, it can explode and potentially damage other enemies. All of those are actually really nice about the Plasma Defender. For the ammos that you got, you have quite a few since it uses energy cells. And energy cells come in a couple different flavors, I guess. You have the standard energy cells, which just do the regular 1 times damage. However, since they're an energy weapon cell, they punch through 2 armor. That's something that's always really cool about energy weapons. You have the bulk cells. Bulk cells make it so you do 15% less damage, but you break your gun 15% slower. These can be really nice, especially in the early game. You can buy a bunch of these from Chat or from traveling merchants. Sometimes they'll sell them, so that's pretty cool. Then you've got the overcharge cells. These give you 25% more damage, punch through 5 armor, break your weapon 50% faster. You have the max charge cells, 50% more damage, punch through 10 armor, break your gun 2.5 times faster. They'll do a lot for you, but you will break your weapon really quick, which may maybe be a problem. I don't know. Then you also have the optimized cells, which give you 30% more damage, punch through 5 armor, and only break your weapon 10% faster. Those are basically always my go-to for almost every energy weapon because they're just so dang efficient. For an overall rating for the Plasma Defender on my tier list, I'd probably put the regular Plasma Defender into like very high B tier. It's a really good handgun that you can find, and if you're finding it towards the early and mid game, it would probably jump up a couple more spots, maybe up into the high A tier, maybe low S tier for an energy weapon build. It is really good. Probably going to get outcompeted by some other options, but I still know plenty of people that really love taking the Plasma Defender as their designated, like, pistol for an energy weapon build, and it is really, really good even by itself. Now, the Gunner's Arsenal version actually gets mods that you can put on it, making it arguably even better. So if you have a Gunner's Arsenal version, you will need to have the Gunner's Arsenal mods for it. You can buy these also from vendors. They're fairly common. Basically, any vendor in the game can sell them, which is really cool, and they're not going to be super pricey either. I think usually they're about 500 to 600 caps depending on your barter level, maybe up to 800. I could be wrong about that. Either way, it's not going to be a massive investment even if you need to buy all 3 of these. And for the 3 that you got, you have a scope. This one is kind of weird. The scope feels really odd on the Plasma Defender, and usually I don't take it. It's not bad by any means, it's just a short range scope. It's very similar to like the 9mm scope. It's just one of those things that it feels really weird on the pistol, and I just don't use it very often. But if you like it, go for it. If you don't like it, then don't put it on. It just makes it so you have a little bit more zoom there, which is kind of cool. Then you've got the stabilizer. The stabilizer decreases the spread even further, so it goes from 0.3 to 0.1, making it one of the most accurate handguns in the game. That is pretty cool. And with the plasma shots, even though they move kind of slow, they do have a bigger hitbox than something like a laser. So that's really awesome. You actually have about laser pistol level, I think it is actually laser pistol level accuracy with this, but hits quite a bit harder. And then the last one, which I think is the most important one for this, you have the high capacity thermal. This doubles your overall mag size. So you go from 32 rounds, which calculates to 16 rounds, to 64 rounds, which calculates to 32 rounds. 32 rounds in a semi-automatic handgun is a lot of shots. I think that's the highest capacity out of any of the handguns. I can't think of any others that actually have more than that. So Plasma Defender can just keep shooting for quite a while, which is really awesome, especially if you get in a drawn-out fight. And this is like my go-to weapon for an energy weapon build if I want to sneak in an energy weapon somewhere. Because I always remember that you can do it with the Plasma Defender, and I always forget about the other weapons, so the Plasma Defender is just like my go-to for those type of builds. With all of these added onto the Plasma Defender, I think it actually jumps up a tier. I think it goes right up into A tier. It's a very solid handgun all the way around. It's competing with a lot of the other handguns. You could argue it probably into S tier if you're going with a strict VATS build, because it is very good in a VATS build, and if you have all the VATS perks to it, you're just going to get like a million shots out of this, and you're probably not even going to have to reload with how many shots it actually has. You could argue that it could get out competed by other handguns too, but for an energy weapon handgun, this one is really, really good. Would I recommend the Plasma Defender? Sure. I use this even on non-energy weapon builds because it's pretty easy to find on Blight members, and it's really fun to shoot. So even then, I would recommend it. It's very fun. If you've never tried it, check it out. Thank you guys so very much for watching this. Hope that you guys enjoyed it. And tell me your thoughts on the Plasma Defender down in the comments below. How do you enjoy it? Is it your go-to energy pistol? Probably is for me, besides maybe 1 or 2 other ones. But yeah, thanks everybody. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.